Sybil and I were just talking probably about 25 minutes ago how I expected some of this news to happen yesterday, and I was like, I kind of thought it was going to happen by now, so I was just waiting. Nebraska's been in a good spot with Jahmal Banks for a while, had the good visit over the weekend. He had told Brian Christopherson for us at Husker 24/7 that things had gone well and to expect a decision relatively shortly. And as we had talked on the previous show, I mean, you had Isaiah Nair, you had Jahmal Banks, you get these kind of bigger wide receivers with some experience, and then you blend in the Jalen Lloyds and the Malachi Colemans and the Jaden Gosses and the Demetrius Bell and whichever of the young guys that you have from this 2024 call. And it just allows you to develop at a little bit different pace instead of the expectation right away. And I've been beating the drum for a guy like Jalen Lloyd, but it's hard to just expect he's going to go from 12 catches this year to 50. Yeah. So having a guy like Nair, having a guy like Jahmal Banks, gives you time to let those other ones develop, and also gives you a physical presence in the Big Ten that you need. Yep. I mean, you got to have big physical guys, and we're talking 6'4", 6'3", 200 plus pounds. You can put those on the edge. You can go in the red zone, throw it up, let them go get the ball. I mean, that's where football is at. That's where Big Ten football is at. Nebraska for so long has just had some smaller wide receivers, so it's nice. Yep. Nice to see them have some depth and some bigger guys in that room.
Aside from obviously the play on the field that Jahmal and Isaiah can give you, them being bigger body wide receivers and more veteran guys, what can they do in the locker room for this young receiving core in terms of showing them the ropes more after last season where they just kind of got thrown into the fire?
Yeah, I look at a guy like Malachi Coleman, and I would think you would look at Nair, you would look at Banks, and you would start to try to model a little bit of what they've done. I mean, these are guys that have had high-level success in college football. Nair, obviously, more so in 2021 at Wyoming. But Banks, throughout his time at Wake Forest has been a successful receiver. And they can kind of teach Malachi some of the tricks of the trade, how to use your body, how to post up, how to do some of these things. I mean, I think there's an expectation because some of these guys come in as such good athletes that they know how to play the position. That's not necessarily true. When you're a really good athlete in high school and you're a recruit, it doesn't mean you know how to run the routes or you know how to put your body in just the right way. Or, you might go win all of these jump balls because you're going against 5'10", 170-pound DBs with 24-inch verticals in Class A football. I mean, it's not the same thing. So a guy like Malachi, and he's not the only one, Demetrius Bell, some of the other ones, can certainly learn how to physically play the game, even if they have the physical traits that flash, the speed and all of that. There's just tricks of the trade that you can pick up from just watching these guys every day at practice. And the spring is going to be a great learning opportunity for a lot of these wide receivers.
So with Banks, AD, you can go.
I was going to say real quick, Schaefer, you bring up a good point. Unknown texter 6475. Good morning to you. You basically answered the question. I'm going to chime in a little bit with that, Schaefer. He goes, what does the presence of these larger, more experienced receivers have on the impact of the development of younger players like Malachi Coleman? Well, Schaefer, you just beautifully broke that down. Because I remember me coming in as a freshman, you had Tremaine Bell, Corey Dixon, Tyrone Hughes that was in the house, Brett Popwell, and those guys. They taught us that what you did in high school, just your athletic ability, that doesn't necessarily transfer to the D1 level right away because everyone's athletic at that level. Like you mentioned, Schaefer, how to run a 10-yard route, how to run a dig with your shoulders and, violent arms is what they would tell us. Little tips of the tricks of the trade that Raynor or Banks are going to bring in to where Malachi and those guys have templates right in front of them, seeing them doing it. It's different when you have McGuire showing them film compared to when you got a guy that's right next to you in line, right in film session rooms that is showing you how to get out of breaks, how to accelerate out of breaks. Those simple nuances that you just can't get from watching film. But if you have that person right next to you, you can watch it hands-on, live time, it pays huge dividends, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you could see things like where the hand and the elbow and every placement is when you're trying to drive off of a guy on the break of your route. When and then if you're Malachi Coleman and the expectation is this is a guy that can put on some weight this winter and get stronger, how to use that strength to gain separation with these defensive backs, not just play off of your straight speed, not just be faster, how to use your body to put yourself in position. You can learn that easier from a Jahmal Banks or from an Isaiah Nair who's done it versus, a Garrett McGuire who, at a young age in coaching, I don't know that that's going to be the area of expertise that he can necessarily give you. And like you said, it's easier to see it when it's right in front of your eyes versus
Mhm.
trying to watch it on film.
Absolutely.
With Banks, I was going to ask you. We've seen that he's had 2 straight years of 600 yards receiving. From watching the tape, what are his strengths? Other than just being a bigger body, what is he more of a possession type receiver, or is he able to take the top off on the defense?
I would phrase it like this. I think of the two, Nair is more likely to be the deep play threat. Now, that's not to say that Banks can't go get the ball down the field, but I think it's more likely when Nair was at his best in 2021. We're talking about a guy who had like a 20-yard per catch kind of season. So he's going down the field. He's drawing that safety. The picture I see more with Banks is more in the intermediate. I don't want to compare him to Marcus Washington, but I guess that's where my head would sort of go with it a little bit. Kind of more of your possession. But that didn't, I said that about Samori Toure, and then Samori Toure, and he was a big play threat at Montana, but I had a tough time imagining that was just going to translate right away into the Big Ten. Turns out he was a big play threat at Nebraska too. So I wouldn't necessarily take what I'm saying as gold right now, because these guys can develop in different systems. And the one thing we know implicitly, Matt Rule wants to get the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola, well regarded for his ability to throw the deep ball. We've had multiple analysts at 24/7 talk about he has one of the better deep balls that they've seen come out of high school. And so this is a thing Nebraska wants to do. So Jahmal Banks is going to be going deep too.
Nice.
And I also think a lot of it comes down to Nebraska was bad in the red zone because they couldn't pass in the red zone. And that's been an issue for multiple teams now. I didn't feel like their tight ends had much of a presence in the red zone. You didn't change what you have at tight end. Maybe Thomas Fidoni can build that over time. Banks, Nair give you a big, you have those two guys split out wide, and you're at the 12-yard line. Those are some real targets that you can put it up in the corner of the end zone with.
I'll say you pretty much answered my next question. I was going to ask, just throwing Dylan Raiola as the starter, since that's what we're all assuming.
I think it's a fair assumption.
Yeah, pretty much. How much easier does that make his job? It's not going to be easy, but how much easier does it make his job to have those two receivers coming into the fold, as opposed to having Isaiah Garcia Castaneda coming off of an injury being his most experienced receiver?
Yeah, I think it's big. I mean, you're talking about guys that have played a lot of football, guys that can kind of tell them, hey, this is where we want the ball. This is like, the spot that we kind of want it, or he gets to work with them now, theoretically this spring, assuming health for everybody, they can develop that chemistry. He's going to know where to place it. He's going to know, okay, this guy's got his release here. I need to throw it here because he's going to be in this spot at this yard line. There's no replication for the ability to work with somebody like that. So to be able to have them come in this spring and everyone's starting fresh and you're all kind of starting from ground zero and you can build that up over time, I think that's really helpful.